Out of the Storm, the Uncollected Fantasy of William Hope Hodgson. Edited by Sam Moskowitz. Illustrated by Stephen Fabian. Published by Donald M. Grant, 1975. The first third of this book is a critical biography of William Hope Hodgson by Sam Moskowitz. This is not only a biography, it's also a bibliography, with Moskowitz making some insightful observations. William Hope Hodgson was born November 15, 1877. He was the son of an Anglican priest and the second of 12 children. 3 of his siblings died in infancy. Hodgson's father moved frequently and served in 11 different parishes in 21 years. As a boy, Hodgson wanted to become a sailor, and he ran away from his boarding school at age 13. He was caught and returned to his family, but eventually, 1 year later, became apprenticed as a cabin boy. During this apprenticeship, Hodgson's father died, leaving the family to rely on charity. After the apprenticeship, Hodgson studied to become a mate, and then began several more years as a sailor. But as a young boy and man, Hodgson experienced bullying, and this led him into a lifetime of personal training. At first, the motivation for his body development was not for health, but was for self-defense. In addition to physical training, Hodgson also took up photography. In 1899, he left the ocean and opened a school of physical culture, a gym, at the age of 22. The school offered not only exercises and weight training, but also self-defense and boxing. There's a story of Harry Houdini coming to Blackburn, England, and Hodgson himself applying the restraints for his escape act. It didn't go as planned, and Houdini accused Hodgson of deliberately trying to injure him or jam the locks of his handcuffs. Hodgson sold some articles, for example, Health from Scientific Exercise, and then turned to fiction, publishing his first short story, The Goddess of Death, in 1904, followed shortly by A Tropical Horror in 1905. We'll talk about A Tropical Horror a little bit more later, as it is one of the stories in this collection. Hodgson wrote short stories, novels, and poetry. One book that I've reviewed on this channel is The House on the Borderland. With World War II, Hodgson joined the University of London's Officers' Training Corps. He refused any naval work and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Royal Artillery. In 1916, he was thrown from a horse and suffered a broken jaw and a serious head injury. He received a mandatory discharge and returned to writing. But through his physical training and physical therapy, he returned, re-enlisted, and received a new commission as second lieutenant in 1917. On April 19, 1918, in the battlefields of Belgium, Hodgson died from an artillery shell explosion. He was 40 years old. There are 7 stories in this collection. Many feature the ocean. In some ways, it felt like he was getting revenge on those sailors who tortured him as a youth. But there's also a deep respect for the ocean, as it is almost a character of its own. Nature versus man. That which we cannot understand. There are also some conventional stories within. A Tropical Horror is a gruesome tale of the sea, first published in the June 1905 issue of Grand Magazine. And then 2 more weird tales on the ocean, Out of the Storm and The Finding of the Kraken. Elo Elo Lama Sabachthani was written in 1912 but didn't see publication until 1919, 1 year after Hodgson's death. This refers to the words of Jesus on the cross. Hodgson's father, an Anglican priest, obviously was an influence in this area. This story looks at mental derangement and the suffering of Christ. Then, the terror of the water tank is a mystery. There are unexplained deaths happening on the water tank. Then for the last 2 stories, The Albatross and The Haunting of Lady Shannon, we return to horror stories of the ocean. And regarding the book, I should also mention that the cover painting is by Hans Bock. Out of the Storm is a book of 2 halves. First, the biography of Hodgson, and then these 7 short stories. I enjoyed both halves. For those fascinated by the fiction of William Hope Hodgson, this is an essential book. I found Hodgson's prose simple yet haunting. There's a terror or horror that builds in some of these stories, and even a bit of ambiguity sometimes at the end. Most stories, though, do have a solid conclusion. When Hodgson was writing for himself, we would get books like The House on the Borderland, but when it came to his short fiction, sometimes he found that he needed to follow the trends, and so that's why we have a mystery story within this book. It was that struggle to satisfy his artistic instincts, but also to make sales. These stories really show the impact of his life at sea and the death of his father. He was unmoored in some ways, but he always struggled to get control in his life, control of his body, control of his art and photography and in writing. I think anyone who is interested in Hodgson would love this book, and I think those who love the Weird Tales magazine and some of his contributors would also find this fascinating, as Hodgson was such an influence on them. If you're interested in more Hodgson, I do have a review of The House of the Borderland, and I'll put a link in the description below. Until next time, keep reading.